All right, let's quickly move. We also have yet tonight Todd Bensman, Jason Fike, Leo Holman, and Melissa Howse coming up here on this broadcast, and some clips. In fact, let's start out, before we go to Todd, let's start out with a clip that will set Todd up perfectly. Here is Senator Kennedy from Louisiana on the faux Biden executive order related to the border. Listen to the always hilarious and pay close attention. You might want to watch Senator Cornyn behind him from Texas. He doesn't quite hear what the guy says. I think he's saying that Biden is about as popular as a foot fungus or something. And the one guy chuckles, the senator from Texas, like, what did he just say? I don't think I heard that. He missed the joke, so pay attention so you don't.
Okay, I want you to listen up. Here's the drill. President Biden is in trouble politically. He's polling right up there with fungal infections. Part of the reason for that is that he gave in to the loon wing of his party, and he dissolved the southern border. Now, 5 months before an election, he has to appear to be willing to do something about it, hence this executive order. And he expects you to report this epiphany that he has had, take what the White House is telling you, balance it on your noses like trained seals, and report it uncritically. For 3 years, we have watched President Biden push on a door that has been clearly marked pull. He's mismanaged Congress, COVID, the national debt, the economy, inflation, crime, Afghanistan, Iran, the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, and now, of course, the border. And every time, I think the president has hit rock bottom. He has managed to find a shovel and continue to dig.
And joining me now is Todd Bensman. Todd, your thoughts, please, here tonight on this faux executive order, which I think is still going to let in at least 1.8 million a year, correct?
Correct. I mean, one thing that this reminds me of is when San Francisco and certain counties in California decided that they were going to decriminalize shoplifting up to $900. It's, in other words, you have a free ride to shoplift anything under $900 without prosecution. That's a real thing. And so in this case, we're going to let in 2,500 a day when the law says thou shalt not let zero in. The number is zero. So that's the first problem I have with this, is that it kind of codifies that it's okay to shoplift up to 2,500 a day, basically. The other problem I have with the executive order is that they are talking tough. They're going to not allow people to apply for asylum. They're going to turn them around, but then they include all of these certain exceptions. The certain exceptions are massive. That means that they don't have to do any of this stuff. They could just simply ask, are you afraid to go back to Mexico? And if the answer is yes, you get in. That's one of their big certain exceptions. So the third thing that is wrong with this is that the administration is aware that they are going to be lawsuited right away, probably tomorrow. Very shortly, they should be lawsuited by the ACLU and Sierra Club and everybody else that loves mass migration. And I believe that they knew in advance that that was going to happen so that they wouldn't actually have to do any of this stuff. And they can point the finger immediately at the Lankford bill being killed, the big piece of legislation that's now been killed twice because it's just terrible. But they were using that as political narrative to be able to shift blame for the border crisis. Oh, I need this legislation to do something. They won't give me the legislation, so it's their fault. They've gotten a lot of really good political traction out of that narrative. It's true over the last few months. So they're going to bring that back once they get lawsuited on this. So be ready to hear that. You can read I read it earlier today, there's a fact sheet that the administration published at whitehouse.gov about this executive order. And all through this thing are references to the Langford bill that they weren't allowed to have. This terrible Langford piece of legislation, the Republicans killed it twice now. So they're foreshadowing, you could see the foreshadowing of once they get lawsuited on this, that they're going to say, well, now we can't do anything because the Republicans want to have this as a festering sore for their own political campaign for Trump. This thing is going to be all about the upcoming televised debate where immigration is going to figure fairly largely. And he's going to be able to say, well, I tried to do something here. I got lawsuited, even though my own people, we all arranged for me to be lawsuited. And it's the Republicans' fault that all of this, because they won't give me the tools and legislation that I needed to control the border. They can control the border right now. It should be zero tolerance. The law says nobody shall pass. And that's they also have Remain in Mexico bolted into the chamber. All they have to do is pull the trigger on that. It's been, vetted by the Supreme Court and all the courts and litigation. It's good to go. That one would work. They're not talking about doing that one because it would work. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
So you believe this is all, again, just as Senator Kennedy said, this is all window dressing for politics. This is not going to slow anything down.
Right. And on top of that, this business about accepting 2,500 illegal crossings a day is not what the American people want. It's not what the law says, but it's what that executive order is trying to do, which is crazy. I suspect that, they probably, used focus groups to test out that number. I don't know where they came up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's got to be a focus group thing that they tried. The whole thing is about how do we overcome these polls that are showing us to lose to Donald Trump over this issue. What do we do? What can we do? We got 5 months to turn this around.
Let's go to a tweet by Todd Bensman. Here is one. Why the whole thing is baloney. Quote, migrants who state a fear of persecution if returned to Mexico will remain eligible under the Convention Against Torture and other protections afforded by U.S. law, according to officials with knowledge of Biden's order. So all they can do is show up and say, I'm being persecuted, and come on in. Right.
They'll be, when the time comes to close the border, when they say, oh, wow, we're above, 2,500, we got to close the border, the Border Patrol agents will be asked to ask them a question. Are you afraid to be returned to Mexico? And of course, they'll all be coached by then to say, yes, indeed.
Coached all the way up from wherever they're coming, Venezuela, up the Darien Gap, by all these UN, DHS way stops so they can take a shower, get a nap, their apps, everything.
Just on their cell phone, they're all talking to each other. Here's all you got to do is say, yes, I'm afraid to be returned to Mexico, and you're in. That's what I meant by that. It's the exception that swallows the entire rule. One of those kind of things. They call them certain exceptions. I love that. Certain exceptions.
So what do you see? What do you see coming down the pike over the next few weeks and months?